Well, top of the morning to you. You've reached the Tasmania Reaction Channel. Like, subscribe, make comments. Let me know how you're feeling out there, what you think of the channel. The channel's about just simple reactions. Gonna stay away from political / relationship stuff today. I'm gonna actually react to a video on the Bill of Rights. Thought I'd send that out there, see if anybody's really knows all of them. Usually people only talk about the first 5, maybe even the first 2, maybe even only 1. But let's go ahead and get into it. Hope you're all having a good night. Ooh. Ted Ed. I don't even know what this is.
The first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, also known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified or passed over 200 years ago. But even though they're a bit, old, these first 10 amendments are still the most debated and discussed section of our Constitution today. So can you remember what they are? Let's take a look. The First Amendment is the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. This may be the most revered of the amendments. The First Amendment protects our rights to say and write our opinions, worship how we please, assemble together peacefully, and petition our government if we feel the need. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The original intent of the Second Amendment was to protect colonists from the invading British soldiers, but it now guarantees that you have the right to own a gun to defend yourself and your property. The Third Amendment is called the Quartering Amendment. It was written in response to the British occupation and as a result of the colonists having to house or quarter soldiers in their homes during the American Revolution. Because of this amendment, our government can never force us to house soldiers in our home. The Fourth Amendment is the right to search and seizure. The police can't come into our home without a search warrant and take our personal property. Today, many concerns have arisen about our rights to privacy and technology. For example, can the government track your location with your smartphone, or can social media postings such as on Facebook and Twitter be used without a warrant? On to the fifth. It's all about due process. You've probably heard the phrase, "I plead the Fifth," in movies or on TV. They're talking about the Fifth Amendment, which says that you don't have to take the witness stand against yourself if you may end up incriminating yourself. Okay, we're halfway done. The Sixth and Seventh Amendments are about how the legal system works. If you're accused of a crime, you have the right to a speedy public trial and an impartial jury. You also have the right to a lawyer and the right to take the stand if you choose. This is important because it will prevent the accused from sitting in prison forever and insists that the prosecution proceed with undue delay. The Seventh says you have the right to a jury trial where 12 impartial peers decide your innocence or guilt in the courtroom as opposed to a judge doing it all alone. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Is a death penalty cruel? Is it unusual? It's hard for Americans to agree on the definitions of cruel and unusual.
What am I listening to?
Amendments are called the non-rights amendments. They say that the rights not listed in the Bill of Rights are retained by the people in the states. You have other rights that are not listed in the Constitution, and the states have the right to make their own policies, like instituting state taxes. So, now you know all 10 amendments. Can you remember them all? If not, remember this. The Bill of Rights are a crucial piece of American history, and though society has undergone many changes these past 200 and some years, the interpretation and application of these amendments are as vital today as they were when they were written.
All right, hold on a second. What? Okay, hold on a second. Hold on.
The first 10 amendments
Okay. I didn't buy a couple of those, and buy as much? I was actually just going to go through and just talk. Okay, hold on. So, okay, hold on. Let's just go through
it. The Constitution, also known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified or passed over 200 years ago. But even though they're a bit, old, these first...
And? I believe the 10 Commandments are pretty old and has been around for a while, and we still live on them. What does that mean? They're a bit old. And Oh, well, what? All of a sudden, oh, well, I've already heard a couple of things with some old laws that has been brought up recently. Oh my gosh, I said I didn't want to get political, but yeah, old. And she said some 200 and some. Didn't we just celebrate on 4th of July? What are we, 275? 270, 1776? 1775 is when, oh my gosh. Even though we're a bit old. Are you talking is this supposed to be for kids? Is this what goes on in school right now? Whoa, okay, let's keep going.
10 amendments are still the most debated and discussed section.
Yeah, she doesn't explain that these weren't even part of the Constitution. It was actually, they were actually written separate because, was it the Federalists thought that these needed to be in writing because since we were a free nation, the other side thought that these would just be known, which thank goodness they did this because look how things are now. Whoever's in power, whoever it is, can go crazy wild, but at least we do have the Bill of Rights. Anyway, let's keep going.
Of our Constitution today. So can you remember what they are? Let's take a look.
Can you?
The First Amendment is the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. This may be the most revered of the amendments. The First Amendment protects our rights to say and write our opinions, worship how we please, assemble together peacefully, and petition our government if we feel the need. The second...
Okay. However, there are stipulations on everything she just said. Like, you can't order somebody to be terminated. You can't yell fire and get people to cause a panic and get people. You can't call to action, for one. Two, you just can't start an uprising somewhere. It's got to be if you protest, it's got to be somewhat at least not violent, where people, all she had to say was with some limitations for safety, things like that. And then also, side note, you can't be put to jail, but if you talk bad about somebody else and it is just blatant lies and they can be proven, you can end up going to civil court and you can end up paying money. You don't go to jail, so you still have the freedom to say what you want to. However, you might have to actually pay money. Hence, kind of what Trump's doing a little bit. What the one female did to Trump, it was all civil. Which she doesn't even say that with the Amendment 7's for. It's she doesn't even mention it's civil. Oh my gosh! All right. Anyway, here we go.
An amendment is the right to bear arms. The original intent of the Second Amendment was to protect colonists from the invading British soldiers, but it now guarantees that you have the right to own a gun to defend yourself and your property.
What?
The third,
what?
write our opinions, worship how we please, assemble together peacefully, and petition.
She's full of crap.
If we feel the need. The Second
What?
Amendment is the right to bear arms. The original intent of the Second Amendment was to protect colonists from the invading British soldiers, but it now guarantees that you have the right to own a gun to defend yourself and your property.
No, it wasn't. That was not even the reason for that. What are they? What? It was a right to bear arms. Bias much? Okay, let me give you a couple examples that I know right off the top of my head. Here's one thing. I believe when President Madison, when he was in a civilian ship was getting attacked by pirates, he sent a letter to the president saying, "Can I put cannons on my ships?" And literally the answer was, "You have the Second Amendment. Go right ahead." So obviously that's pretty close. Not 200 some years ago. Oh wow. Well, we're coming up on our 250th. I mean, you could say 250 years. Anyway, There's one. Secondly, once the Revolutionary War was won, there were still a lot of people who wanted the power that the colonies were trying to give George Washington. Even then, they stood when they had when they got all this together. Even then, when he was getting possibly assassinated, all these other attempts, they never took that Second Amendment back, because there's a reason why it's number 2. It's extremely important. And yes, before the Revolutionary War started, there were times where the British soldiers will come in and take everybody's weapons. Well, because of the other amendments as well, being able to go into anybody's house that they want to without any other knowledge. But in no way that all of a sudden, somewhere within this 200 some years, all of a sudden you have a right to have a gun just to protect your stuff. No, that's always been the reason, to protect it from anyone. British soldiers, Indians, people who want to take your property, anybody else that was coming from any other places against you. God, that's bias. Anyway.
The Third Amendment is called the Quartering Amendment. It was written in response to the British occupation and as a result of the colonists having to house or quarter soldiers in their homes during the American Revolution. Because of this amendment, our government can never force us to house soldiers in our home.
And I think that's a lie too. During peacetime. I believe if martial law takes over or anything that effect, or we're attacked, don't quote me on that, but I believe during peacetime. Maybe not.
The Fourth Amendment is the right to search and seizure. The police can't come into our home without a search warrant and take our personal property. Today...
Oh, really? Probable cause? They can't go into your car because they smell weed or they see drugs or whatever. You just keep everything shut. You get a DV and I tell the cops they can't come in. They don't have probable cause to come in. They don't need a warrant.
Many concerns have arisen about our rights to privacy and technology. For example, can the government track your location with your smartphone, or can social media postings such as on Facebook and Twitter be used without a warrant? On to the fifth.
Why don't you just stay what they are? Why are we giving all this biased information? All right, I get it, but I just want to know I didn't understand this as a propaganda video. Why don't you just say what the 10 Amendments are?
It's all about due process. You've probably heard the phrase, "I plead the Fifth," in movies or on TV. They're talking about the Fifth Amendment, which says that you don't have to take the witness stand against yourself if you may end up incriminating yourself. Okay, we're halfway done. The sixth...
All right, from that, yeah, pretty much, that's fine.
Sixth and Seventh Amendments are about how the legal system works. If you're accused of a crime, you have the right to a speedy public trial and an impartial jury. You also have the right to a lawyer and the right to take the stand if you choose. This is important because it will prevent the accused from sitting in prison forever and insist that the prosecution proceed with undue delay. The seventh says you...
Okay, also to be said, this is also where, because of this, that's why you can get a public defender as well if you don't have any. I don't think she said that, but if you're low income, you have a right to an attorney. Unfortunately, that's extremely low, but it's just, anyway, yeah, that's why you can get one if you're low income.
The right to a jury trial where 12 impartial peers decide your innocence or guilt in the courtroom, as opposed to a judge doing it all alone. The Eighth Amendment.
And it's civil. It's times when you can actually discuss things civilly. Hence, like if someone's, just used the example the other day, if say that you're running a daycare and all of a sudden 2 women you pissed off just an example. You're a guy, you're running a daycare, and two ladies you piss off. All of a sudden, they start saying you're a child molester, yada yada, this and the other, and it gets a big uproar. You start losing business, whatever, defamation, a character, and all that. You can't do that. It's just, I mean, you're not going to get, you have the First Amendment, so you're not going to get arrested for it. But if someone takes you to court and finds out that you're just blatantly lying and it hurt this person, you can end up paying money. Ask ABC, CBS, and all these people are getting all upset about all this. They literally lied. They literally said that they literally labeled the President of the United States things that he hasn't even come close to being, which refers back to this exact amendment. The big thing that he is, the big sexual thing, he's not a criminal on that. It was a civil case, which a lot of things can be tossed out of civil. You don't have to prove it like criminal, and then all of a sudden he owes that female tons of money because somehow he said that she wasn't his cup of tea or whatever, and she got defamation of whatever. And if you really want to know what's going on, look at that. Look at what happened. Okay, but then he's going out and he's saying that CBS called him the R word that you can't say here. That's what he was convicted of. He wasn't even convicted. It's civil. It's different. Legal terms are totally different. They mean something. It's a civil case. It's not criminal. So you're not a criminal. And I'm not talking about the felonies, which in itself are goofy as can be, which is just a freaking clerical error. And if you don't know what that's about, just take freaking 5 minutes on some type of Google and ask the right questions, and you'll get the correct answers. 43 times, 46 or 36 times, it was a clerical error, and I think he's the only person that's been charged felony. They just did it so they can call him a felon. Crazy. Anyways, but civil. A lot of times people don't even throw this in with 5, 6, and 8 because it's civil.
Prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Is a death penalty cruel? Is it unusual? It's hard for Americans to agree.
Why are we giving your input? Okay, personally, I think life is precious. So I actually turned. I used to think death penalty was okay. I don't think so anymore. I do think that people that do the R word and murder should be put on hard labor for 12 hours a day, get 6 hours of sleep maybe, and then another 12 hours of work, another 12 hours of work the next day, another 12 hours of work the next day. Hard labor for the rest of their lives, but no. But why is the death penalty? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'll tell you what. I know I used to think before I decided that you have to be black and white on important subjects, because then you just fall off. And if I'm good at the beginning of life is precious at the end. So no, that's not saying that I wouldn't terminate somebody to protect myself. It's a total different act. But life is precious, and my life is extremely precious, and anybody I'm protecting is extremely precious. So in that case, termination needs to happen. I have no problem attempting that. But other than that, no. But I just don't like what is cruel. Is that well? Was it cruel and unusual if they did to somebody else? So throw the Bible in there. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Come on.
To a judge doing it all alone. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Is a death penalty cruel? Is it unusual? It's hard for Americans to agree on the definitions of cruel and unusual. The 9th and 10th Amendments are called the non-rights amendments. They say that the rights not listed in the Bill of Rights are retained by the people in the states. You have other rights that are not listed in the Constitution, and the states have the right to make their own policies, like instituting state taxes. So, now you know all 10 amendments. Can you remember them all?
And the one thing you're going to use is there. Okay, so states, that's where you have like marijuana. Some states they do have taxes. Some states they have abortion. Some states they don't. And that's because, and that's the big thing with abortion. Abortion was never in the Constitution at all. And so, it never should have. Roe versus Wade never should have been a constitutional thing. So that's why those go back down to the states, which is, if it's going to go back to the states, gives more power to the people because you have a bigger say in where you're at. So I live in a state where it's okay. Marijuana and stuff's okay too. But yeah. So I just gotta I gotta go back to that's troublesome. I go back to the Second Amendment. That is outrageous how it was said. I mean, I don't even have anything to read exactly what it is. But I mean, the right to a well-regulated militia, and but it has not. It was only for the British soldiers. No, it was not. It's mainly due to the fact that checks and balance, pretty much. I mean, if we didn't have the Second Amendment, none of the other amendments would mean anything. So, I think Biden said one thing one time. Oh, you think you would be able to, fight the country would be able to fight the United States government? Yeah, and that, there's a lot of us, if once you take guns away, that's where you end up getting Nazi Germany. So many other places out there. I mean, hey, if you got a problem, go to Australia. I believe Australia's, I think they're outlawing machetes, or just outlawed machetes. So probably next is going to be steak knives, or, meat knives or something. I don't know. But, I know there's just people out here that do violent acts, and plain and simple, I have weapons, I have guns, and none of mine have ever hurt anybody. So, and I've never seen a gun just walk out of somewhere and go and terminate somebody. Just me. So, but no, ultimately, yeah, it did come from the Army and the Royal Navy, the Royal Army being able to go through and do whatever they wanted to, being part of the quarters, them just being able to come in and take over your house, and there's also within those amendments, I forget which one it was, but like that the government can't come buy your housing out or take away your land without properly giving you a fair market price, or buying it for a fair market price. And so some of you don't know that the government can take your land away, and they can. That's where a lot of times you'll get like it's always a beautiful saying, for the greater good, which means we're gonna fuck you, but it's for the greater good, so it's okay. But they'll come down and they'll take your land, and they'll put it in a must need it highway, and must need it, whatever. But it does state that they'd have to give a fair market price for your property, which is cool. But yeah, that Second Amendment still kills me. Yeah, I was was talking to somebody about this one time, and they're like, yeah, the First Amendment, it reaches, it's out there, and it refers to, now we have kind of what they said here, or it goes for, freedom of speech with social media, and being on TV and saying whatever you need to do, blah blah blah, that and the other, and then all of a sudden they'll find Second Amendment. Oh well, Second Amendment, that just had to do with muskets, not dealing with these military grade weapons that we have now, and blah blah blah, that and the other. Horseshit. So one amendment can change with the times, but the other amendment can't. And if I may say, it's pretty clear that the Second Amendment said we have the right to have the weapons that the Army had, right to bear arms, to defend. Okay, so if you're ever out there with an argument and you want to argue with somebody about that, literally say the colonials were able to have the same muskets in the same grade that the military had. Now we're restricted, like they call an AR-15 a weapon of war. Horse shit. It's a piece. Oh my god, horse shit. There's a reason why there's an M in front of a lot of military rifles. Hence M16, M4, M280, 249, M60. I mean, there's a reason, because that M stands for military grade. An AR is not a military grade. And a lot of times, to be honest with you, a few questions I ask somebody before I start getting in a discussion about the Second Amendment. One, I ask them what an AR stands for and an AR-15. If they can't even answer that, say you don't even know what AR stands for, an AR-15, and you're trying to take my right away. So, another question I might ask them, in a semi-automatic rifle, like an AR-15, what's the difference in fire rate between a AR-15 rifle and a Glock 19? If they don't know the difference, tell them they need to research. They need to go out shooting. And they need to understand that you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And you're trying to take away a right that was given to us when the Founding Fathers knew how important it was. Nothing infuriates me more than somebody who just wants to throw out propaganda. Usually I end up getting, see, now I'm getting mad, dude. Usually one thing I get is, why do you need an AR-15? My answer to that is, why do you want to take an AR-15 out of my hand? And then, give them my little background of what I do, what I did. That's one. Then two, usually ask, do you think women should be empowered? Do you think women are strong mentally and are capable of doing things? Yeah. Usually they'll say yeah. And secondly, I'll come out and I'll be like, okay, but science is science, biology is biology. And a woman that's 110 pounds, she's out on a jog, and a 220 man jumps out and attempts to attack her. My question to you is, why do you want to take the one thing that could equalize that scenario from, say, my daughter, who's 120 pounds, my other daughter, who's 102 pounds, or I don't know, maybe she's 40, 30, 98. It's not about me. Why do you want to take that opportunity for her to be take away the one thing that could actually even the ground, or even the playing field? That's one thing that really bothers me about that. A lot of women out here get hurt. There's a lot of women out there. Maybe they're all lies. I don't know. I'm sure they're not. But you can look up the stories out there where people come in, they talk. Maybe nothing was going to happen. Maybe something was going to happen. But a lot of joggers out there, a lot of female joggers out there, carry a little fanny pack. They got a little something in there. Suspicious person just comes out of the weird area in the woods when you're running in a park or so. If you notice nowadays, a lot of the paths are pretty away from, or gosh, let me put it to you this way. If you're going to be out, and I say this to anybody actually, but I'm just talking about women right now, because that's where I'm at in my mind with the Second Amendment. If you're going out, well, the sun's going down. Sight is a little diminished. That's why a lot of times it's a good time when the sun comes out. The sun comes out. It's a good time to attack and battle. Try to pick a path where the path isn't like on the edge of the park or anywhere where you're going to have less than 25 feet of visual of opening. And I just know I know a couple of people who served along with me, and I know for a fact that they've been in situations where they've seen things, don't know, but all of a sudden they stop and they get their fanny pack, and then what? Somebody wasn't going to do anything, but then they just go away. It's weird. It's weird walking a dog. Okay, dogs are great, but shit, my dogs would probably lick somebody that was trying to hurt me. So that's what I tell people when what do I need an AR for? What do I need a handgun for? And I'll still give a good argument for an AR. If you got a little fanny pack, maybe you got a little revolver, maybe you got maybe like an EZ Smith & Wesson or something that you could easily pull. For those of you who never had a gun, just go to a gun store, try to charge around. And if you think a female who's like my daughter, who's 98 pounds, or even a daughter who's 120, who's pretty good, both of them are pretty good athletes, still kind of hard to pull those back unless you get special. But I'll tell you what, just go to a gun shop. You guys will have no problem showing you guys. Show the difference between what it takes to charge an AR-15 and what it takes to charge a normal semi-automatic handgun. Not a revolver. Again, revolvers are really going to have back kicks. Really scares a lot of people who are weaker. In some cases, females. But there are tough-ass females out there for sure. But even weaker guys, the kick is pretty bad with revolvers. And they're also easier to shoot. Have kids and whatnot. But yeah, pulling back the slide of a handgun is pretty difficult if you're a little weaker. Yeah. So pretty much you got to just pull. If you had it, you just got to pull, and it's that little sound. Well, on an AR, there's a little clip that you can actually pull like this. Nobody has a problem doing that compared to your thumb and finger trying to pull something. Or, I mean, you got to get your own, and then you have cutting your hand, and then women don't want to do it anymore because they just cut their hand. But then it's also doing that really isn't a quick action. I mean, you want to be I'll tell you what, you can charge that. I'm just saying, many different things. So, and a helpful tip for all you guys out there, just something I use because I have many toys, if you will. I don't have a big safe. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. All you got to do is take the slide out of any rifle, or just take your barrel out of your whatever. Get a little safe that's only 20 something. You can have probably fit about 30-40 charging and barrels inside there. Then of course have one ready to go. But if you don't have a big safe and have anything ready to go, but you want to go out and you want to have fun with all these weapons, just get a little one and just take those out. Take the firing pins out. One or the other. Anyway, I'm out, boys, ladies, children, adults. Yeah, that video kind of pissed me off. Alright, anyway. Alright, I'm out. Remember, stay in school.